Hello guys, and welcome back to a new episode. So today I have some beautiful questions sent by you and I'm here to answer them, give you my opinion on them obviously. So without wasting much time, let's get into today's video. Alright, so let's quickly go into the questions. So the first question is, what was your smartest gear decision? So for me, one of my smartest gear decisions that I made earlier on in this career was, first of all, getting an editing machine rather than getting a camera. When I was beginning, I had an option to buy myself a camera or get a machine that I can use for editing. And at that point, getting a camera really felt like a very, very good decision, But it just dawned on me that, where I find myself in, you can easily rent a camera, but you can't rent an editing machine. And I just realized that anytime I go out to do a job, I'll be found wanting, when it comes to the editing side, because I didn't have an editor at that point who would probably have an editing machine that can actually edit for me. So I was going to do all the shooting and editing myself. So when I had the money, I just realized that, if I get an editing machine, I could easily rent a camera out when I have a job or when someone calls upon me to do a job for him or her. And I can come back with the luxury of editing with my own editing machine in my own space. I wouldn't have to now go and borrow a friend's machine to edit or any sort of thing. And also at that point, I was doing some few editing gigs here and there. I was kind of editing just for people here and there. That was also bringing me some decent income as well. So for me, it felt, more reasonable to get a machine than to get a camera. And trust me, it really helped. That decision really saved me a lot. And I think it's one of the reasons why I'm still doing this, is that one of the reasons why I am still in the game. So that was one of my smartest, gear decision. All right, so the next question is light more important than camera? For me, I'll just give you a straight answer. Yes, light is very, very, very important than camera, because if you have good light can make, non-good cameras look very, good, and also when it comes to camera and when it comes to cinematography and all these things, light is the majority, light is the major thing, and mostly you can get a very good camera, a very, very expensive camera, with the Reds and the REs and, some of these very, very good cinema cameras that can actually shoot in RAW and all this good stuff, And if you don't have a proper light, my friend, you're still going to get terrible outcome. Trust me, that's how it works. Like, you can't cheat it, You can have, like, let's say for instance, the Sony Fx3, which has a very, very good low light performance, but still, if you don't set up your lights properly and you don't have good lights, trust me, you're not going to be able to produce good results. For me, I just think that when it comes to video making, shooting, cinematography, all this stuff, light is one of the major things. If you have good light, you can make any crappy camera or any camera that is not in that top tier look very good. So for me, light is way, way, way important than camera. And one thing I forgot to mention, when you have very, very, very good light, it makes locations that don't look very good kind of magically look very good, So when you set up your light properly and the location you have is not really, really appealing, you can set up your light in certain ways that you can actually bring the best out of the place. So for me, light is king. Light is king. So the next question is, what's the biggest beginner gear mistakes? I think one of the biggest beginner mistakes, one of the biggest gear, mistakes that beginners always do is that they think getting the best of best equipment is what is going to make their jobs or them produce good results. When you have a piece of gear, and it can be in that low tier range, but if you are able to learn the gear very well, and all the ins and outs of the gear, it's easy for you to use that particular gear. But if you are beginning and you just spend all your money on, let's say for instance, you are beginning and you kind of spend all your money on a very, very, very good camera. Example, maybe like the Fx3, the Canon C50s and the rest, the R6 Mark IIIs and all these other good cameras, the Nikon ZR, and you spend all your money on a camera like that, you'll be like, oh, wow, I have the best of the best, camera now. I can do what these top professionals are doing. And you spend all your money on such a camera, and you kind of don't have money to spend on lens, you don't have money to spend on good light, just as I said earlier on, light is king. You don't have money to spend on good audio and all those things, and because you spent all your money on a very, very good camera, you think because you have that camera you're going to produce results. You cannot compete. You cannot compete with people in that tier. And I quite remember when I was doing more of like freelance job. People you normally come and be like, oh, I saw this person's video, this person shot this with an iPhone and it looks good, so why can't we do this project with an iPhone? And I always tell them that no, we can't do this project with an iPhone, because you see, one thing that people are missing when it comes to stuff like that, everybody thinks, oh, because the new iPhone has and I'm not denying the fact that the new iPhone that we have now are not very, very good or professional piece of camera gear, don't have professional camera artifacts. They have very, very good professional features that can produce very, very, very good results. But one thing that people actually miss when it comes to seeing all these well done phone or iPhone videos that people actually do online, some of these people are using very, very good editing softwares, where they can actually color grade or put certain things in place. They have probably some other itineraries like good lights, maybe probably a very good gimbal, some accessories, and when you look at the keynotes that Apple did with, I think, the iPhone 15 or the 61 of them, that they shot entirely on an iPhone. If you see the behind the scene and you see the other elements or the other tools or piece of gear that they added to the phone to be able to produce that result that you were seeing, you know that you don't just have to pick up your iPhone, because the iPhone has a very good camera and all that. You can easily pick up the iPhone and start shooting and expect the same results that they were having. If you see, even with the DP and all that, the black magic tools they were using, the color grading, all those things, if you look at the piece of equipment that they were using and piece of software that they were using to actually produce that result, you know that you don't just pick your iPhone and you think because they're getting that image, you're going to get the same image. So that is one thing that I think beginners normally do. They see something online and it's like, this creator is doing very, very good job online, is putting out very, very good content, and they look at that content and it's like, because the creator is using an Fx3, I also and must have an Fx3. And their ideology is that because that creator using an Fx3 and is getting that same results, it means if I get an Fx3, I'm also going to be able to get the same result. Sometimes you can even get the same camera, but probably what the lens that creator is using is totally different from the lens that you're going to use. So some of these things are factors that you have to be considering when you are getting a piece of gear. So if you're a beginner, please don't look at stuff like that, but actually understand the piece of gear that you're trying to get. Look at what you are doing. What is the long-term goal for you? Is this camera going to be feasible for me for the long term? Sometimes based on what you do, you don't even need an Fx3 or a C70. Probably you might even be okay with a ZV-E1, which has the same sensor as the Fx3. Maybe probably you don't really need a camera that needs to have a built-in fan, that can cool the camera down and all that. Maybe probably you are just doing something, based on what you are doing. You probably might not need an Fx3, and getting a ZV-E1 would be a proper choice, and that will cut down massively on your budget. So for me, I think that's one of the mistakes that I think beginners normally do make. So the next and final question is buying a used gear safe? Well, for me, I think buying a used gear, when it comes to buying a used gear, I think there's no problem with buying a used gear actually, but you just have to make sure that you are buying from a reputable seller and you trust the seller, and maybe you've probably bought stuff from them before or something like that. And also, because it's used, when you buy them, make sure that there's some sort of return policy so that you can actually check the equipment that you are buying properly to make sure that everything is working perfectly. That is all that I think you need to do. But for me, I think buying used gear is very, very important, and it's a good choice, you know, because when you look at a camera like the Canon R5c and you look at its brand new price, and also if you look at the Canon C50's brand new price, and you look at the Canon C70's brand new price, you could see that the R5c's brand new price is a little bit lesser than the Canon C50's brand new price, you know. So for me, if you put those two cameras down and you say I should buy one, I'll probably buy the Canon C50 over the Canon R5c. I'm not saying the Canon R5c is a very good camera, it's a very good camera, but if you look at the difference in price, it's not worth, you know, the things that you're going to get on the C50, because when you just add up a little bit and you get the C50, the results or the value you're going to get in that particular camera is going to be way massive, you know, than the increase in price. So for me, I would say that maybe you're on a budget and you can't buy a Canon C50. I would probably advise that instead of buying an R5c brand new, go in for an R5c used or second hand. That you're probably going to find it, you know, way cheaper than you getting a C50. So if you are getting that, it makes the value reasonable, you know, getting a camera like the R5c for such a very minimal price than getting it brand new. So in situations like that, you know, and if you look at something like the Canon C70, which is when it came out was way higher than what the Canon C50 is currently. So if you are going out and you're buying a Canon C70 brand new, trust me, look at how much that is going to cost you, and the value you're going to get from the Canon C50 is way better than what you're going to get with the Canon C70 when you put aside all the peripherals that, you know, it comes with the body, the XLRs, you know, and all the other features. But for me, I think buying a Canon C70 new right now isn't a good buy because of the value you can get out of the Canon C50, and also buying a Canon R5c right now brand new, I don't think it's valuable based on the price of the Canon C50. So for me, I'll say buying used gear like that came out so many years ago is the perfect way to go than buying brand new. So just make sure that you're checking the equipment very well. Make sure you've been able to have ample time to check and make sure that what you are buying is solid and everything is working perfectly. Then you can go ahead and buy it. So if you use these measures, I think it's safe to buy a second hand or a used gear online. I think it's safe. I think it's a very good option. So guys, that will be all for today. So make sure you subscribe and share, like this video, and see you in my next video. Let's go.